Dr. Kat Stone is an innovator and a pioneer in the injectable space in New Zealand, creating the Botox market literally from scratch. Every entrepreneur has a key starting moment though.
I started hating people, and I would be like, someone would come in with constipation and I would have no empathy.
By chance, she came across the procedure, but man, did she have her doubts to start with.
You're doing plastics, can you do my Botox for me? And my first reaction was, what do you want to stick that shit in your face for?
She had created for herself a promising career trajectory into plastic surgery. Many people, however, doubted her.
What other people think of me is none of my business. So yeah.
So good. Being an entrepreneur involves taking risks, and sometimes those risks can almost take you down.
There was a point where it looked like I was potentially going to lose everything. So I went from like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And that was where my second burnout space was.
Turnover for vanity, profit for sanity, cash flow is reality.
They say you're not an entrepreneur until you've had the experience of like having to put your payroll on your credit card and I had to take groceries back.
Most people's journey into the exit itself is very challenging. For Kat Stone, however, it was serendipitous.
I rang the first person who was a doctor who used to work for us, and I was like, hey, this is a really random question, but would you be interested in buying the face place? And she's like,
Dr. Catherine Stone, Dr. Kat, welcome
Kat.
to the show.
thank you, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So you were an absolute pioneer in the space of Botox and cosmetic medicine way back in 2001. So people did not know what it was. What were the weirdest kind of questions that you had to field back in the early days, kind of the level of, will this make my face fall off kind of question?
Well, will this make my face fall off was actually relatively common.
People said that.
People were like, is my face going to collapse? Because they had this whole idea that like if you relax the muscles that like all of a sudden they're just going to collapse if you stop doing it.
Melting face kind of thing.
Melting face kind of deal. And I had to be very reassuring that that was not a problem. And then the other very common one was like, oh, is this from cows? Which is understandable because you've got the bow side of things for bovine. But and there's another injectable that was being used at the time, which was bovine collagen. And so people got a little screwy with it, and they're like, oh, is this from cows? And I'm like, no, not from animals. So, yeah.
How did you answer that question? Will it make my face fall off or collapse?
Basically education.
Right.
And that was probably the key part of my whole early journey was educating people. And, what is Botox? How does it work? What does it actually do? And what are the actual side effects, which were very minimal at that stage. And yeah, face collapsing was not one of the ones that was seen.
Yeah. So I mentioned Dr. Kat Stone, and it's not a Doctor of Philosophy Kat, it is Doctor of Medicine Kat.
I'm not even a real doctor. I'm a doctor of medicine. A doctor of philosophy is a real doctor.
That's what they say.
Yeah, we only have a double degree. So yeah.
So why is that the case? Why are you a real doctor when you have a Doctor of Philosophy and not when you have a medical degree?
Medical degree in New Zealand is a double bachelor's. So we're not even a master's, so we don't have a doctorate per se, we're a medical doctor.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So promising career in plastic surgery.
I was on the surgical training program, and I was doing everything in my power to get onto the plastics training program, where they normally take 1 or 2 people a year, and there's usually 15 to 20 people who apply. And so I was being a nice, vigilant little good girl going in, and so I would go into plastics theatre before starting my real job. I would do the plastics ward round, go to plastics theatre, start my real job, work my real job all day, and then go back to plastics theatre afterwards. So yeah, trying to get my hours up and be in front of the bosses.
Yes. What was it that made you go, that was not the career for me. I want to look into doing a completely alternative career and get into ultimately injectables?
Yeah, it was interesting. I hit burnout. I basically was trying so hard to do everything right that I got to the point where, I was working 80, 100-hour weeks on the regular.
Wow. They said that
And
as a house surgeon, you were doing that?
house surgeon, junior registrar,
Yes.
yeah. And I started hating people, and I would be like, someone would come in with constipation, and I would have no empathy for what they were going through because I was just completely burnt out. And I was looking in the mirror and being like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like what this is turning me into." And around about the same time, there was a friend I was at a dinner party, a friend who is a very he's done very well in business, very smart man, who just happened to turn around and be like, "Oh, Kat, you're doing plastics." Everybody just assumed because I spent so much time in plastics theatre that's I was doing plastics. Um, "You're doing plastics. Can you do my Botox for me?" And my first reaction was, "What do you want to stick that shit in your face for?" And he's like, "Oh, no, it's really good." And at that stage, I'd used Botox in cerebral palsy kids, where we put it in their legs to help them walk and also to help with their hygiene. So they have contractures or like spasm in the legs, and we use it to relax the spasm. We use it in very, very high doses. But to take it from like little kids, like 2 to 3 years old, into doing it in someone's face for wrinkles was kind of like for me. And so, yeah, originally I was like, no. And then I was like, okay, I'll look into it. And I went off and did some research and realized that not only was it incredibly safe with very few side effects, it could be used for a lot of different things other than just cosmetic medicine or wrinkles in the face. And it was also the fastest growing cosmetic procedure in the United States purely through word of mouth. So in 2000, when I was doing the research, it hadn't actually got its official approval for cosmetic use. It was being used for eye spasm, lazy eye, and facial spasms. And somehow, just through word of mouth, it was that good that it was the fastest growing procedure in the United States. And it didn't actually get its cosmetic approval in New Zealand until 2002. And I was fortunate to be part of that launch of cosmetic Botox into Australia and New Zealand.
Okay. Number of points I want to pick up on there. The first one is, I've heard that before about the medical system when you're going through your training and house surgeon registrar that you end up working 60, 80, 100 hours a week. Why do we do that to young doctors?
I think it's changed a lot in the last 20 or so years. And it was changing when I was doing surgery. I was actually very supported by a lot of the bosses. They were encouraging women into surgery at that stage. That there was a real sense of, you have to do the time and do the hours and have your hands on the tools to get your experience level up to the right. There were very high standards, and by having more time on the tools, more experience, more exposure to clinical practice, the thought was that made you a better clinician.
Okay, got it. A couple of things spring to mind. The first is that I've done quite a lot of road rally driving,
Yeah.
so Targa kind of driving.
Yeah.
And I have a mate who was competitively successful in the UK doing it. And I went out for a couple of drives with him and I said, can you give me some tips? And he said, the best tip I can give you is time in the seat. In other words, practice, that 10,000 hours thing, which they've now debunked and said it's more like 30,000 to 50,000 hours to become an expert in the current world in which we live.
Yes.
So if you're doing more hours in a week, if you're making, 1 week into 2, then you double up with that. The second is that, and we both know this well, the only way that you develop resilience is from some hardship, and working 80-hour weeks consistently is hardship. And so it makes you a resilient surgeon, doctor, so you can deal with difficult things down the path. So despite being in the middle of that, the cauldron is not very pleasant. You mentioned the B word, burnout. I've talked around this a little bit on the show. I need to get Susie McAlpine on. She wrote the book called
Yeah, she
Beyond
did.
Burnout.
She wrote a
She's
great book. She did a good talk as well, didn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
So For you back in those days, not liking people, losing you're a very personable person, but what else were some of the symptoms that you were experiencing of burnout? And that's me asking on the basis of people who might be kind of, wondering what's going on with them in their lives and not having any answers to it.
Yeah, just, I didn't like people. I found I was very easily irritable. Um, I've done burnout a couple of times.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Not
uh,
being able to hold a train of thought
yeah,
cohesively.
that's a big one.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
mind wandering
Yes.
and getting midway through a task and wondering, what am I doing? Where am I up to? What's going on? Kind of thing.
Yep,
Yeah,
very much.
irritability is a really
Yeah,
big one.
yeah.
That was certainly something that I've experienced twice in my life as well.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, to be honest with you, I have trouble remembering those times just because it was
Just
so much
intense.
going
Yeah,
on.
right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Bit of PTSD maybe.
what was that?
PTSD going on maybe as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
It's it wasn't. It was little T trauma rather than big T trauma, but it was just like consistent barrage of doing things.
Yes.
So, yeah.
What's the difference between little T versus big T?
Big T trauma are the big things like abuse and like
Loss of a limb, death
yeah,
of a
like
loved one.
being in a war, those sorts of things are big T trauma. Little T trauma is like we all have trauma. But the little T trauma is like your more daily traumas.
Getting teased.
Yeah,
That sort of stuff.
those sorts
Yeah.
of things.
Okay.
So, yeah, although sometimes, bullying can be big T trauma for some people. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Maybe going back to the original point of view, man, haven't had enough hardship, then it will probably become real trauma for you because you don't have that resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely built a lot of resilience through medical school and over the surgical training side of things, which I think sets you up really well to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and a party animal.
Yes, sure. So, what did your colleagues say? No, when did you make the decision that you were going to exit the system, the medical system that you were in, and the track that you were on, and go and set up in a completely emergent space that had no proven market, no customer set that was already there? So, when did you actually make that final decision?
I probably made the decision in late 2000, and it was one of those things. Everything happened kind of quickly. And I basically was just like, I'm going to go and do this Botox thing. And they were like, oh, you're going to hate it. You'll be back in 6 months' time. Like, private patients are so difficult. And I ended up loving my private patients. It was amazing. There was, I mean, that's a very long time ago now. That's what, 26 years? Yeah. Oh my God. I have to think, it feels like the dark ages. It feels like a lifetime ago.
As an investor, I get people pitch to me all the times for ideas on what it is that, they've got the next best thing. And I have historically had people that have been referred to me as a favor to a friend to look at their idea to bring in a piece of technology, typically. I only invest in things where you're building your own IP because that's the only thing that's truly leverageable and scalable. But the notion is that if you can front run a big trend that's happening in the United States, for example, particularly, then you might have a fist at building a good business in New Zealand or Australia and New Zealand. And so you mentioned that it was the fastest growing non-surgical medical procedure in the United States. And I think of a parallel where I had someone pitch to me wanting to set up a network of cryo chambers,
Oh, yeah.
which you'll be familiar with.
Yeah,
Stand in a
absolutely.
thing,
Yeah.
the
It gets real
nitrogen.
cold. Have you done it?
I haven't done it.
Freezing.
Right.
It's really cold. Like,
Yeah.
your eyelashes actually freeze and you can't move too quickly through the air.
Hey, it's Josh. Thanks for being part of the show. Most founders don't just build one thing. They build many. The company, the team, and hopefully the legacy. JB Ware in New Zealand understands that your exit isn't an ending. It's the bridge to what you build next. Whether that's backing the next generation, funding what matters, or creating impact that compounds across decades. The best exits aren't measured in commas alone. They're measured in what those commas enable. 2 Commas is proudly partnered with JB Ware, building wealth that works as hard as you do.
Because you can cut yourself
Wow.
from,
That's nuts.
yeah, it's completely nuts.
I'm a big ice bath fan, as I think we've talked about in the
Yeah.
past, and I don't have the comparison point between those things, but
It's a whole lot colder than an ice bath.
okay, right. I mean, it's minus 100 something degrees, right? But I looked at this and I thought the really obvious thing to me with that business model is it was too capital intensive and there wasn't enough population base. And I don't think they've actually ever taken off in New Zealand because the economics have to work out that you've got to be operating them at like 60, 70% capacity, and that means a big population base, et cetera, for them to work. And so how did you, and it may have been instinctive and a preference to experiment and be a pioneer. But what else did you do from a market research standpoint? You had a rich buddy who was like, hey, I'll be your first client kind of thing. What else did you do as the early motions to examine how it could have been an appropriate business for you to establish?
I definitely looked at the business case overseas. It was a low initial capital investment.
Couple of syringes.
Yeah, a little bit more than that, but I mean, I set up my first clinic on $7,500. No, sorry, $13,500.
Was that on the back of a van?
No, it was actually just around the corner here in Vulcan Lane.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I had two in Vulcan Lane, and so I had the first one was halfway down Vulcan Lane, number 10, and yeah, I hustled for that. My biggest investment was my antique dental chair at $7,500.
Wow.
And then I basically,
Gotcha.
hey,
Was that a good thing to spend $7,500
it
on?
was awesome. I had that dental chair for 20 years. So yeah, that was a pretty good investment if you work it out over like return on investment.
Absolutely.
And managed to convince Mark Lyons to, he was just kind of on the beginning of his downward spiral, and he was friends with my boyfriend at the time's brother. And I managed to convince him to lend me the space, at $500 a week, all inclusive. I had no idea about commercial property. That was a big part of me being able to actually afford being in Vulcan Lane. Yeah, and I recognized that as a doctor, I grew up in a family of business people, but as a doctor, I hadn't had any like real understanding of things like profit and loss or marketing or anything like that. So I went and did a heap of free courses with Gosling Chapman back in the day. So I was like voracious at going in and learning as much as I possibly could about how to run a business. So I actually ran my business on Excel spreadsheets for the first 4 years. And then I also, speaking of the American side of things, I mean, I saw the concept. I had the opportunity to go and train with pioneers of cosmetic Botox up in Vancouver on a couple of occasions. And while I was there, I saw the concept of the medical spa. And so I came back and set up New Zealand's first medical spa, was the second Vulcan Lane clinic just a little bit further down the road, where we brought in more doctors and then brought in the skin side of things. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's my question. So what's the difference between what you started doing versus the medical spa?
What I started with was so I was New Zealand's first Botox specialist centre. One of the things that came up with that when I started advertising it and other people started copying it, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool because, when it's the highest form of flattery when someone copies you. And then all of a sudden the medical council was like, you can't use the word Botox specialist because it implies that you have a higher level of training as a specialist, despite the fact that
I'm a freaking doctor.
well, yeah, to get your specialist, you have to be a fellow of the Royal College.
Got it.
Then you're a specialist.
Yeah, and the
So-
irony is you become a mister. So
Yeah,
when you're a surgeon...
I would have been a Ms.
A Ms.
I would have been a Ms.
got
I
it.
would have gone from Ms. to
Got my
Doctor to
question.
Ms.
Okay. It's really weird how you get reduced in title. It's like being a professor versus a doctor. You're just a professor.
Back in the day, surgeons were seen as like butchers, and so they weren't seen as like real doctors. And so when it became an elevated profession, they were like, well, I'm stuff you doctors, I'm going to stay a mister. So yeah.
I still see them as butchers, by the way. I've been through the medical system recently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like every industry, there's some people who are absolutely incredible. Like my surgeons have been just next level amazing.
Yeah. I'll come back to that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think of it as the Maslow's hammer. paradox, which is that if the only tool you have is a hammer, you see the whole world as a nail. And so surgeons' raison d'etre is to cut. And so whatever condition you have, if you turn up with a thing that could indicate that that is a solution, it's one of the solutions,
Yeah.
is how I think about
Yeah,
it. It's
if in
not
doubt,
the
cut
only.
it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a surgical saying.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Along with see one, do one, teach one.
See one,
Do one,
one,
teach
teach one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
the level of learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And sometimes you don't even get to see one. You just have to do one and then teach it. So
That's what I learned about quite a few surgeons. I had a specific condition as a result of an injury not that long ago. And my question always to them was, how many of these have you worked on? Oh, I know someone that did.
Yeah.
I had that answer back from 2 surgeons. I'm like, you are not the guy for me.
Yeah.
So how did you go about the early motions of educating, informing people that this was an option? So, I'm I imagine a female would be the early target customer, the ICP for you.
Interestingly,
Okay, cool.
the first person that I treated on a train, like I went and did the training course because I was like, I need to see what this is like and what it's all about. And, what you read about sometimes doesn't play out in clinical practice. And so my first victim was my boyfriend at the time. And I was absolutely blown away when this stuff actually worked. I was like, oh my God, amazing. And of the first 10 people that I treated, 8 were men.
Was that because of your network and it was his mates?
Yeah,
or was it
was
right?
pretty much his
Okay.
mates. And at the same time, I specifically chose not to go down medical mile, and I targeted this area because I was like, I want to target professionals and business people. And so my target market was the lawyers, accountants, people who had a higher expendable income and who needed to look good for their business purposes. So I actually had a reasonably high proportion of men early on. I also I went and did a lot of education around at different places. So, and I thought about, okay, where would my target market be likely to be? And it's like, well, it's people who care about what they look like. So I went to hairdressers, beauty therapists. I did some talks with business groups. I did some talks that were medical talks as well. But I had an association with Men's Works, Matt Swan. And so I had a lot of guys who would come from Men's Works. So yeah, I ended up having quite a strong male clientele very early on.
Okay, unexpected.
Yeah.
And so what was the pitch or the offer to people back in the early days when I didn't know about what it was? And so, what would I have had the description of what it was and why would I have wanted to do it? Was it just appearance or was there something different?
So, I mean, gosh, when I did the education, it was like an hour-long education piece with like before and after photos and everything else. But essentially, it was, this is something that's safe, simple, effective, and it works very quickly, and it can help you look better, fresher, more relaxed, less stressed. The less stressed was probably the one that really spoke to the men. And the fresher, more relaxed, I think, to the woman.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm.
And in the early days, what was the acceptance rate for people like? Because that's a process of educating a market. You always have to do that in developing a market. And ideally, you want to be able to have a pretty high conversion rate between, conversations incepted and then the number of those folk that convert into being customers. Was it, did you have, like a flood and people were coming back? So I think my understanding is I've had Botox a couple of times. And so it's kind of one of those things that once you're in, you need to stay in.
Well, you don't have to stay in,
Right.
but to maintain the results, it's a bit like dyeing your hair or having your nails done.
Or going to the gym
Yeah, you just got to keep doing it. So that was also one of the things when I looked at it as a business model. It was like, as a business model, the fact that people came back every 3 months. So every 90 days is like the perfect amount of time to really build a relationship with someone. And originally, the plan was to set up the business and then franchise it and then sell it on. That was the original plan when I was talking business with this friend of mine who was the one who first gave me the idea. I was bouncing some ideas off with him, and then I went and talked to franchise consultants, and they were like, "Well, your client is not actually the patient. Your client will be the franchisees, and there will be when you do franchising, there will be like." Out of 10 franchisees, there will be one who's great, there'll be 7 or 8 who, just puddle along, and there will be one who is just the bane of your existence. And you'll probably be relatively middle of the ground rather than, up here. And I was like, "That just doesn't suit my personality."
Sounds awful.
So I decided to let go of the whole franchising side of things and really focus on making it high-end boutique. We were the first to do a lot of stuff, but right from the outset, we had a 1-hour initial consultation, which allowed us to provide education for the patients, do a full assessment, take photos, as well as doing the treatment at the time. And then we bring them back 2 weeks later for follow-up. And, you're talking about conversion. I at that stage wasn't measuring conversion from doing, say, the talks into who would be a patient. But our conversion rate from initial consultation into actually having the treatment was super high. And that was because, again, we were kind of the first. There were people who were doing Botox before I started doing Botox, but they were doing it once a month for an afternoon, 15 minutes in, out, bang, 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 see you later. And we started charging for the consultation. So if someone came in and was paying money for the consultation, they had already kind of made a commitment in their mind to it already. And then rather than doing free consultations and having all the tire kickers.
Yes.
Uh,
There's a principle Robert Cialdini in his book Laws of Influence talks about, which is that if you would like to have a business relationship with someone, I then pay you money for something, product or service, the idea is to start with something small. So if you'd like to get, forgive the gender nomenclature, but if you'd like to get $10,000 from a man, start with finding something to sell him for $100. Because that'll start that transaction off, and it will also remove, as you say, a lot of the tire kickers from the start. So you charge for something nice and simple, I don't know, $150 for the consultation, whatever it is, with the idea being that you get the $1,000 every quarter from that point onwards. So it's a smart way to go about building relationship
yeah.
and credibility as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Like it.
And I mean, I used to quite regularly say I was the most expensive in New Zealand for Botox. And some of my friends, when I told them what I charged and converted it back to pounds or US dollars, were like, "You charged that much?" But it
Or
also
premium, right?
creates a perceived value.
Right.
So, and when what we did, and if I don't mind saying myself, I thought it was kind of smart, is that people paid for their initial consultation, but if they went ahead with treatment on the day, then that was credited to the payment. So
Yes,
that
smart.
meant that they weren't. It ensured that they were actually interested in going ahead with the treatment, otherwise they wouldn't put the initial outlay.
So you then moved into doing some other new and interesting different things. Let's start with PRP.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did lots of new and interesting
Yeah,
things.
okay, let's talk about a couple of them.
PRP would have been around about 2005, 2006, and we were the first to really trial it. So this is a treatment where we take the healing parts of your own blood. So you take just like a blood test. The blood then gets spun in a centrifuge, and it separates out your red cells and your platelet-rich plasma, which is what PRP is platelet-rich plasma. And this is kind of like the liquid gold that when we inject it into tissues, so whether that's the face, the hair, or other areas, helps to repair and rejuvenate and regenerate the skin or the tissues that it's gone into.
You mentioned you can have the PRP for other areas. What does that mean? What are the other areas?
So one of the things that I ended up doing was being a trainer for what are called the vampire treatments. Vampire treatments. So some people may have heard of the vampire facial, which is where we use a combination of needling and PRP to stimulate the skin in the face to be brighter, glowier, thicker, fewer wrinkles. It's a fantastic procedure. And the guy who invented that, it was made famous by Kim Kardashian on her show. And the guy who invented the vampire facial, I actually met at a conference in Venice where, you do that normal, like, you have breakfast before you go to the conference and you talk to the people who are there, and he slides on in and he's from Alabama. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Kat. I'm from New Zealand. He's like, hi, I'm Charles. I'm the sex doctor. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Am I in the right place?
It's not. And then I found out during the conference that he was also the founder of the vampire facial, vampire facelift. And he was using PRP into the genital area in both men and women. So for women with the O shot, for men with the P shot, to help with improving their sex life. So also for women, it's very helpful for leaky bladder.
So let's talk about the first one first. So helping improve sex life. What was the promise? What was the possibility of how it could help people improve their sex life?
It wasn't just promise or possibility. There was actually research that was being done on it. And so for women...
I would have loved to have seen that research study. Before and after. What's the control group? Who selected the participants?
Yeah, let's just say the research wasn't quite that good. And they weren't observing directly.
Yeah, okay, right. It wasn't done in Amsterdam
it was
at a club.
questionnaires.
Yeah.
So with the O shot, it helps with sensation, lubrication, reduces the pain of painful sex, and it's called the O shot because it's the orgasm shot. So it helps improve orgasm. So for women who haven't had orgasm, which is actually a surprising number of women, then...
I mean, that'd be a surprise to most men listening to the show. They're like, what? I thought they always did it.
Yeah, a lot of girls are good at faking it. But anyway, and for men, it helps with... so it's called the P shot, P for phallus or priapus, which is the same as penis, all starting with P. And it helps with basically hardness, maintaining an erection, so erectile dysfunction, but also I would say that the majority of guys who came in for the treatment had normal or just below normal function. That wasn't full erectile dysfunction, but they were just coming in to make it better. And probably about 40 to 50% would have an improvement in size, but that would be more girth than anything else. And we tended to stay away from the guys who just came in for the size side of things. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's a different promise to try and achieve.
Yeah. And, I like to be able to deliver. This is going to sound really bad. I like to deliver.
I like to deliver.
Yeah, I like it to deliver consistently. Yeah, it wasn't a consistent enough improvement for me to be like, if you're just doing it for size, that this is something you should be investing in.
Yeah, got it. And what was the uptake of that like?
The uptake was really good. We had a lot of couples who were coming in with it, but I actually thought it would be a lot more than what it was.
Okay. Is it painful? That sounds painful, having something injected.
Really good numbing cream.
Right.
And most guys didn't feel anything. For women, the first injection, women had 2 injections. The first injection, they really didn't feel anything. The second ranged from didn't feel a thing to, oh, that hurt, because it was into the clitoris. But it was over and done with in like 10 seconds. So for guys, like I would say more than 90% of guys didn't feel anything because we use really good numbing cream. Yeah.
Okay.
And tiny needles. That was always a question. How big are the needles?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think there's a correlation, or at least a perceived correlation between size of needle and amount of pain.
Yeah.
You had some pretty good publicity early on in the day. So let's talk through some of those high points and how you managed to get yourself exposure to those things.
One of the very fortunate things that I had was I was part of the launch of Botox Cosmetic into Australia and New Zealand. And so as part of that, Allergan paid for me to have media training, and then we got introduced to all of the major media people over remember the Palazzo Versace
Oh, and the Gold
and the
Coast?
Gold
Yeah.
Coast? So
Oh,
they flew everybody over to there, and we had
right.
this is back in the days when you could actually do these sorts of things with pharmaceuticals. And yeah, like we had this wonderful weekend away just hobnobbing it with all the media types.
That
And
sounds like a junket.
yeah,
Yep.
it's a great junket. And
Yep.
so I've built some really good relationships there. And then I just always made myself very available to talk to media. And that I became kind of the go-to person for a lot of my career. I became the go-to person for a comment on anything that was cosmetic medicine. And then about 20 years ago, I was part of a TV program called 10 Years Younger. So I did the pilot and the first season, and then the majority of the final 2 seasons. So we did 3 seasons of it. And that went to 40-something countries overseas. So I ended up with all these, like, people who would fly in. I felt quite glam at the time. I would have people who would literally fly in from, like, the States or Oman, or would fly in, have a treatment with me, and fly out again. It was great. It was so cool. So and that was a big part of growing the business. I was a minor A-list celebrity front row at Fashion Week for the space of, like, a season. So
Moment in the sun.
my moment in the sun,
Yeah.
which kind of, uh, it's yeah, you go the high and then you go the low.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah.
So we both know CB, obviously, and CB's been on the show. And I remember him saying to me one night, we had known each other for probably 15 years before we had a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation, and I said, bro, it's so funny that we're getting to, now, kind of scratch beneath the surface. And he goes, well, for 5 minutes there after the Orcon sale, and he had the good grace to call himself a D-grade celebrity. He goes, I was like a D-grade celebrity. And he said that the consequence of that was that everyone thought that they knew him because he had a public persona and profile. And there was all the stuff that was written about him and his backstory and his life and what he was like. And so they would approach him or treat him in a way that was kind of should be reserved for people that you are familiar with, at least as an acquaintance or ideally as a friend. And so the response that he had to that was to kind of separate himself and essentially put a bit of a barrier up between him and the world.
Yeah.
What was your experience like with being...
I was the opposite.
Right. Okay, well, back to
I
your
was
point.
basically like I had
Bring it
people
on.
I had people who would come up to me because we were on TV at the time, and people would come up to me in the supermarket and like just kick up a conversation, and then be like, then they'd get this look of horror on their face, and they'd be like, I don't actually know you. I've just seen you on the television. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, I'm having a chat. It's fine.
Yes.
So
Back to what you said,
Yeah.
you made yourself available for these things.
Yeah.
And you're a warm person, like authentically a warm person. And so...
except when I'm burnt out, but yes.
Right. I mean, when you're working 100 hours a week, and it's most of us. So it kind of aligns with you being, actually, I wanted to circle around the brand thing of that, because you have a brand. Dr. Cat is a brand. And so, the world that we live in, AI driven, et cetera, easy to develop products from a technology standpoint. Probably that's going to lead pretty quickly into actual product development. And I'm looking forward to medical advancements as well. That'll be made a lot quicker through AI. So the hard part now is not developing the intelligence, the IP. The hard part is getting into the market and getting customers' attention, right? And so the cut through of that is brand. And so one of the methods of going about developing a brand is actually showing up to the events, talking to the press, taking the call from them. And this is actually circling back around to this, one of the things that can be a challenge for me in doing this show is getting people to say yes to come on and tell their story. Because we're Kiwis, right? And so I don't want to tell that. Like in technology, it is okay because people get accustomed to, kind of getting out there and putting themselves out in whatever public eye it might be. But outside of technology, it's quite hard. And it's because of that reticence, that, tall poppy, that kind of thing. And that will not, in my opinion, serve you well in the modern world that we're kind of, wading our way rapidly into, stumbling, crawling, flying into at the moment. Whereas you had that instinct back in the day that was the right thing to do. But the consequences for you were actually, they were pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I have been very fortunate in my journey with both the media and with making myself available and being a bit of a media slut. But that it has been a very positive process for me, and I've built really great relationships, and yeah, I've been really fortunate. I can also see people being nervous about the flip side of being visible, and that in this world, so often when people are visible, it's an opportunity to pull someone else down. But it's very easy to do because of that disconnect between that little screen that is a layer of safety for people who maybe don't feel so good about themselves. They have to pull other people's down to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, that's often the origin of it, eh? I either consciously or subconsciously don't like something about myself, and so therefore it's easy to go out and criticize or, attack other people.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have been absolutely ripe for the picking for that, I would imagine, with, cosmetic medicine and that. But yeah, I've been very, very fortunate in that space. Or maybe I just haven't realized. Maybe I've just been oblivious and been like, "Do, do, 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 do."
I mean, as a form of defense, that's not a bad one, right? You just just plow on with life.
Yeah. Well, my dad's favorite saying is, one of his many favorite sayings was, "What other people think of me is none of my business."
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so good. Yeah.
So maybe that would just.
Mm.
So.
You had a clinic in London for a period of time?
Yeah, I was going up to London probably 3 to 5 times a year and working out of a friend's clinic in Harley Street up there. He was arguably, and still is, arguably one of the top in the industry out there, and does a lot of the trainings and is well known as a speaker in our industry. And I was really fortunate that I got introduced to him by a friend at a conference in Paris. And yeah, Tapan and I got on like a house on fire, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come and work at the clinic?" And because I was talking about how I still had patients from in the Northern Hemisphere from doing the 10 Years Younger show, but we kind of changed the rules on things. Gosh, I'm thinking 15 years ago, when we realized that flying immediately after having dermal fillers wasn't such a great idea. And so that kind of put the kibosh on people like just flying in and flying out for treatment. And so I was just looking at other ways of kind of looking after my Northern Hemisphere clients. And yeah, it just all fell into place. Yeah, I've had some pretty good strokes of luck over the years. And it was super fun. It was a great way of, didn't make much money out of it. It just funded my business class tickets up and justified it as a business expense. So
And then you did your European jaunt as well.
yeah. Well, I usually combine it. I mean, I have a passion for learning.
Right.
And so I usually combined it with a conference of some sort. And that would also mean that I would be able to bring all of the new ideas back into New Zealand and Australia long before it was kind of common knowledge back here. So
Yeah.
it gave me the jump on being innovative in this space.
Yes. So when you were considering angles for growth, you put aside the option for franchising because of the type of people, not the type of people, but the business you would have had to have been in, because you're essentially not selling to the customer, you're selling to a aspiring business person. The consequences of that, you went through you had some opportunity to do some public profile things, which worked well for the brand of the Faceplace, but also for Dr. Kat's brand as well.
Yeah, Dr. Cat kind of came later in the piece. For a long time, I was actually kind of intertwined with the Faceplace. It was probably only the last maybe 10 years that I've kind of separated my personal brand out. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Was that tricky or easy to do?
No, I just started signing off as Dr. Cat.
Right.
So, with my little like love heart, my signature little love heart eyes cat emoji.
I haven't seen it. We'll put it in the show notes.
And then, yeah, but that was also intentional because I was starting to try and make the faceplace its own brand separate to me and make people aware of the other people who were in our team, that it wasn't just about me. So that was a conscious decision 10 years ago. In terms of growth, so the Botox Specialist Centre was 2001. Then we launched the Med Spa concept in 2004. 2006, so we did 10 years younger, was like 2005, 2006, 2007. And in 2006, we launched what was going to be which was my flagship clinic up in Albany. And at that stage, I was wanting to do a training academy. But around about the same time, there was a lot of political stuff that happened, and the kind of the governing body for cosmetic medicine, which at that stage was more of a college, decided that they were going to start offering training. And so I didn't want to go into direct competition with them. I wanted to be supportive, so I backed off on that idea. And at the same time as I was expanding the business with the Albany clinic, my fiance at the time and I were investing quite aggressively in the property market. So we did 23 properties in 24 months.
23 and 24 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's call it one a month you were buying.
Pretty much.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is
It was very
approximately
unstable.
okay. Approximately when was this? Which year?
So this was 2005, 2006, 2007.
Pre-GFC.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
get the
So
timing.
and it was literally just before the GFC that I realized that it had gone upside down. So one of my learnings from the experience was at that stage I'd abdicated responsibility I thought I'd delegated, but I had actually abdicated responsibility to my fiance at the time. And I was not keeping a close enough eye on what was happening. And I'd take the money that I had been investing regularly into growing the properties, I had taken to start building and developing the clinic. And we had some properties that were in the worst street in Wanganui, in the middle of gangland, and they got robbed every single time they got vacant for their copper. And so we were actually starting to go upside down even before the global financial crisis hit. But when that hit, it just accelerated the process, and it was a very tough few years. And there was a point where it looked like I was potentially going to lose everything. So I went from like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, and that was where my second burnout space was. I stepped back into the business. I'd gone down to maybe 2 days a week of injecting, and I stepped back into the business. My fiance and I split up, and just under the pressure of everything. And so he came in with no assets. So I knew that if everything went pear-shaped, that they would be coming for me because we were jointly and severally liable. And so I took over the properties as well. And it was tough. It was really tough. And I was really fortunate. I had a great GM at the time who turned around and was like, I can see you're heading towards burnout. You need a break. So I took 3 months off and did a month in the Americas, a month in Europe, and a month in Bali. And it wasn't until that 3rd month in Bali that I actually had the clarity of mind to be like, okay, I need to make some big decisions here. And I couldn't do anything about the properties at the time. I was kind of over a barrel. So that was 2011 by that stage. I had the big clinic, and then I had the smaller clinic in Vulcan Lane, and I realized that I had to close the big clinic, which was, that was meant to be my flagship, and make people redundant, which was one of the hardest things that I have had to do is to go to make people redundant, because I treated my team like a family. I didn't have family because I was so dedicated to my business. So my team became my family. And yeah, but it was so clear that I had to let that go, downsize, regroup. And I did all of that. And, as is often the way when you go through the highs and then the low, you go through the low and then you learn and you come back, and we went to even bigger highs. So went on to win heaps of awards, got invited to be part of the Burnout precinct, then launched the Takapuna Clinic. So we came back from there, but there was definitely a period there where I wasn't sure we were going to make it through. And they say you're not an entrepreneur until you've had the experience of like having to put your payroll on your credit card and take I had to take groceries back because there wasn't enough money in my account to pay for groceries. So
Elon describes it as the bad moments, the tough moments of like chewing broken glass whilst staring into the abyss. And I don't know a single successful entrepreneur that hasn't had that like almost completely gone everything moment. We've all been there, sometimes multiple times. For you, how did you get through those really, really tough times?
do you know what it's gonna say? I've had a spiritual kind of leaning for a long time, and I really got into my daily gratitudes. And so, when things were really, really tough, there were some days where I'd be in the shower and I'm like, what am I grateful for today? I'm grateful I can see. You Fuck. And then you like have to listen to yourself and be like, okay, that wasn't very grateful. But yeah, like finding those small moments to be grateful for. And, often I would be driving back from the Albany clinic at like 11 o'clock at night. And I'd come around the corner and I would see, the corner down by Esmond Road, and I'd see the city all lit up and the light on the water. And I would just have this moment of like, that's so beautiful. I'm so grateful to be alive. And so, yeah, those little bits sustained me. But it was a lot of hard work and it was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, a gratitude practice is one of the, in my experience, having been through some things, is that in the darkest of moments, it actually truly can elevate you. But sometimes it can feel like it's a little bit twee, like really this thing again. I started the day today with a session working with a board, and we were doing an exercise, a icebreaker, get to know each other exercise kind of thing. And it was I got asked that exact question, in tough times, what brings you brightness? And it was funny because I've just had 3 days of some annoying things happen. And so third day, I'm like, what the hell's going to happen today kind of thing. And then I'm like, Josh, go into that place of gratitude. So I was literally had come from my car, having left the gym, not being able to work out for literally 10 weeks from the injury. And I was able to work out. So I'm like, well, I'm grateful for the fact that I could just have a workout. And grateful for the fact that I could lift something again, and then the cold shower that I had afterwards, because I can't ice bath yet, but I can have a cold shower. And so those little things, they can be quite difficult to find, but once you get into the rhythm of doing it, it's so great to pull yourself out of that place.
It is. And I mean, there's definitely parts where it was like, fake it till you make it. There were definitely parts where it was like, I'm really searching right now for that gratitude. But yeah, making it into a practice and being like, okay, what are the things I can be grateful for in this? It as you say, it elevates you out.
Yeah.
So raising the vibration.
Yes. Yes. So, you over the years have had people approach you to sell your business. You'd gotten to a few conversations over time, but there's a journey that was kind of quite quite the identifier for you that you needed to kind of get into that space. So, and talking about gratitude, you've been through a cancer journey. So 3 cancer
Yeah.
journeys, not just one.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
overachiever,
I'm an overachiever.
always an overachiever.
Why
So
stop at one?
yes. Shall we talk about the cancer journey? Because that was the
Absolutely,
thing that
yeah.
was, before selling the business. So,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I'm grateful for probably sounds weird that I'm grateful for cancer, but I never would have retired at 50 if I hadn't had a cancer. In my mind, I would have kept working until I was like 85 and 90 and probably doddering around on my high heels with
You're not coming near me with that needle with those hands.
But, I actually had a surgeon that I used to work with who had essential tremor, and you could see when he was doing his consultations and his hand would be going like this. This patient, we'd be looking at his hand, and he was amazing in surgery. He would be rock solid, and then every now and again he would just go, "Hold this," and there would be like shake his hands and go straight back to it. It was
Holy
amazing,
shit. If you're a
incredible.
patient seeing that, you'd be like, ah!
Yeah, I do, but as a patient. Sorry, that brought that one back for me. What was the question?
So, cancer journey.
Yes.
When did it
Yes,
start?
yes, yes.
And
So I had the cancer COVID one too. So my first diagnosis was January 2020, and I had had a lump. So breast cancer, I'd had a lump biopsied 2 years prior, and I always say, like, get someone else to check your boobs for you. It's way more fun.
oh, yeah, naturally. I reckon 2026 is perhaps the most important year of the new millennium. This is powered through artificial intelligence. There's a tectonic shift going on in business right now, and I think you have an opportunity to capitalize on it. I've written a white paper. It's available on my website, joshcomrie.com, under the resources section, completely free of charge. And it'll give you some thinking and some resources and some how-tos in this rapidly changing world. Enjoy.
It was my boyfriend at the time had noticed that that it had changed, and so it's a good way. So for you guys out there, if you are helping a woman examine,
If you're lucky enough.
the way I described it, and I actually once I found it, I actually got all my friends to see what it felt like. Some of my trusted patients, I gave them the opportunity.
Well, you're here.
It's amazing what you talk about in these things. But the best way to kind of feel what it feels like is if you bend your finger and make it a knuckle, and then rub your finger over that knuckle, and that's kind of what it feels like. It's hard and knobbly.
Right.
And so if you ever have anybody that has anything like that, just get them to get it checked.
Okay, that's a really great tip. So, like, it's gristly, kind of, kind
Yeah,
of
it's
knobbly,
kind of like
feeling.
hard and knobbly
Yeah.
is the best
Yeah.
way to describe it.
Okay,
So,
right.
and there are lots of other signs of breast cancer as well. So I always encourage women to learn how to self-check. Way more fun having someone else do it. And yeah, it changed probably in about September, October, but like September, October, November, December is our busy time of year. So I didn't get it checked until January. It was probably a little bit avoidant. And I have a friend who died of breast cancer at 38. And she kept kind of like coming up in conversation, and I was the glitter fairy at her funeral. It's a whole nother story. But whenever Helena is around, I see glitter turn up on people, and there was a lot of glitter turning up on people randomly, and it wasn't just because it was Christmas. So I had some warnings that there was change there. And so yeah, I went in and had the mammogram, and the guy was like, "Oh, your mammogram seems fine. We'll just do the ultrasound. It's kind of a formality." And then I was watching his face, because you can't help but watch their face when you're being scanned. I don't know if you've had that experience, but like,
I don't have boobs to inspect, so
well, I
yeah.
mean, like shoulders and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah. Oh, you do have boobs.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Men
the
actually,
same.
1% of breast cancers are in men.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
Stop the show. I'm going to go get a mammogram. Sam, book me in.
and an ultrasound. Um, yeah, he was doing the ultrasound and I saw his face change. And so I stuck my head around the corner because, I can read a ultrasound. And I saw him put what's called the Doppler on, which measures blood flow. And the signs that were there were indicating a cancer. And I couldn't help myself. I didn't say anything, but I just had these tears that started to come down my face. And he looked at me and he's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a doctor and I know what that means." And he's like, "Yep." And so he did the biopsies that day. I um I got the news a week later when I was in the middle of a busy clinic and just had to be okay. At that stage, it was only my mum and probably a couple of close friends that knew that I'd had the biopsy. And so, yeah, I got the news in between patients and then just had to refocus and look after the patients and then kind of collapse at the end of the day and go buy a lot of chocolate. So, mm, um, yeah. The first surgery, so it was early stage, we caught it early on. First time around, I had a lumpectomy. And then I was meant to be going to Europe to a conference and then to a friend's wedding in Brazil. And I was meant to be flying out on the 30th of March, 2020. And just about, I think 5 days, was it the 26th of March that we got the news that we were going into lockdown?
25th was the actual start of lockdown day, because I arrived back in New Zealand the day before that, the 24th of March, 2020. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, 5 days beforehand, before I was meant to fly out, we got the news that it was lockdown. And so I did my radiotherapy during lockdown, which was actually super fun because I got to drive along Ponsonby Road when nobody else was allowed out. And I had my little bubble of people that were looking after me. And for anybody who's never been in had radiotherapy, it's like being in the particle accelerator is literally like being in a Star Wars fighter jet. So about halfway through my treatment, I dressed as Princess Leia.
Of course you did.
To go to my radiotherapy.
With the things? Yeah. Okay.
And the gun.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, just for fun.
Yeah. Good on
Shits
you.
and giggles.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is that some people might psychologically say that's a method of being avoidant of something, but I think it's perhaps, knowing you, is it more embracing it and kind of going, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to make light of it because it is what it is.
Yeah. My way of dealing with the cancer has been humor. So, yeah, usually inappropriate.
Yeah. How have other people dealt with that?
In terms of my friends or my medical team?
Friends and family.
Friends kind of know what I'm like. So they're kind of, so second cancer was during the big lockdown and I was diagnosed October 21 and I had my surgery November 21. And for that one, they basically removed the breast and made my tummy into my breast. So it was a 9-hour operation. But before they do that, what they do is they inject your nipple with dye, radioactive dye, so that can see where the lymph nodes are.
Right.
And take the lymph nodes out. And I had this lovely, probably quite religious man with like a turban who was doing my nipple injection that got told off by my friends afterwards for making him blush.
Maybe not intentionally.
So, yeah. Good. But yeah, generally my friends are relatively supportive of my inappropriate sense of humor.
Okay, good. There's no smooth gear change for me to make here, so I'm just going to make it anyway. So along that journey, along the way of battling and recovery, you made the decision to sell the business.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. The way, again, coming back to my kind of more esoteric spiritual practices, like when I first had cancer, I had to sit down and be like, okay, what is this telling me? And the first cancer for me was you need to slow down. And I listened for about 2 months. And then I got back into it, and I was back into work. And then the tamoxifen really slowed me down in a way that I couldn't. I actually could not physically function. And the second cancer was like, okay, well, you didn't listen. So now we're actually going to slow you down. So I didn't go back into seeing patients after the second practice. I was just running the business and doing a directorship. After the third cancer, I had to really sit down and go, like, what's going on? And I was at a medical institute in Mexico. After I'd done all my chemotherapy, I wanted to do the integrative side of things to try and mop up whatever was left, if anything. And they have great psychologists there. And after one of the sessions with a psychologist, it literally just came to me that, like, I had to make a choice to let go of my business for my health. Stress is a very strong trigger for breast cancer, and one of the things with one of the projects I'm doing at the moment is that with around breast cancer survivorship, it's amazing the number of type A high performing women who get breast cancer. And so I had to really look at that. And so I was sitting in the pool at St. Aviv Medical Institute, and I literally just picked up my phone and I had 3 people in mind that I was going to ring, and I rang the first person, who was a doctor who used to work for us. And I was like, hey, this is a really random question, but would you be interested in buying the faceplace? And she's like, yes, actually, yes, I would. And from the phone call to signing the heads of agreement was 5 weeks. And from the phone call to actually handing over the keys for the business.
Money keys exchange.
Money keys, yep. 8 weeks.
That's unheard of.
I know, but I made it easy I made it easy because I wanted it to go to someone who I knew would carry on the culture of the business.
How important was that to you?
Supremely important.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you privilege that above the multiple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. So, I mean, I could have sold the business probably a year or 2 earlier for a much, much bigger multiple. And, but it was the right timing for me, and it was the right timing for her. And so, rather than selling it to, say, private equity or a big business, I wanted it to go to someone who knew and understood the culture and would carry that on.
Yeah. So you had a moment of going, this is probably not right for me from here. You went through your phone, you rang one person and asked them if they could be interested. 5 weeks later, they signed the heads of agreement, and 3 weeks after that, there was money in your account and you'd been able to exit the business operationally. That's kind of the whirlwind of exits. That's almost unheard of. And it's in the category that I call the succession exit. So essentially what you do is you management buyout or sell to family or selling to business partners is normally how that plays out. Ex-employees is also a method of that coming to the fore. And one of the reasons I love it so much for people is that speed of deal is like what one of the classic hallmarks of it. The continuity of the brand, of the culture, of the presence in the market. You're probably not going to be experiencing a roll-up. There's probably not going to be a rebranding anytime soon. And you kind of have that joy of seeing someone else continue to take that thing forward and continue the dream kind of thing.
And there's a deeper level of trust there.
Yeah.
So that I think that also helps to facilitate the speed of the process, because you don't have to go through the relationship building of trust. That trust is already there. Yeah.
So since then, you have picked up, finished, and written the book?
No.
No?
No. So
The book journey.
I have a couple of books that are in process. So I've already done 2 books, Grow Younger and More Beautiful as You Age, was my first book, which was launched in 2018, same time as the Takapuna Clinic. Then, sorry, no, 2016 was the first book. 2018 was the recipe book, Grow Younger with Great Food. I'm working on one called Grow Younger with Great Sex.
Great.
Working with a friend of mine in Bali who is a clinical psychologist with a special interest in sex therapy. But the one that is front and foremost for me at the moment is a book called The Beauty of Survival. And it's a coffee table book. We've taken the photos, so we've got 12 breast cancer survivors who have agreed to be photographed with their scars. For me, it's kind of, I'm hoping it's kind of like a bookend, excuse the pun, a bookend of like my cancer journey. It's like my identity as cancer patient is like finishing with that. But for me, the first thing that went through my head when I found out that I had cancer was, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then when I found out I was losing a breast, it was like, I'm never going to be sexy again. I'm losing my femininity. And so my vision for the book is that this is something that creates brightness of future, hope, inspiration, but also practical advice for anyone who's been recently diagnosed with breast cancer, for someone who's supporting someone through breast cancer, and for someone who's going through a breast cancer journey and just needs that little bit of hope and inspiration.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be not just we've done the photography, the photos are incredible. It's also been an amazing journey for those 12 women. It started because when I found out I was losing my breast the first time around, I had photos taken beforehand so that I loved my boobs, let's be honest. I was like, I'd paid for those boobs. They were spot on. And so I wanted a record of what they still looked like. They looked great. Yeah. And then I went back and did some photos afterwards, after I had the reconstruction and before I had nipple reconstruction. And it was incredibly empowering for me just doing that process and being like, actually, I can still be feminine and sexy and beautiful despite the scars. And in fact, one of the things I've spoken about in the book and in a couple of interviews is the concept of kintsugi.
Kintsugi?
Kintsugi is the Japanese pottery that is broken and put back together with gold.
More beautiful, yes.
And it becomes more beautiful because of the fact that it's unique. And so now I see my body more like a kintsugi.
Okay.
I'm just adding to the kintsugi regularly at the moment. I wanted to take that experience out to other breast cancer survivors. And so, it was on hold while I was still dealing with fatigue and running the business. And then when I sold the business after I had to have some more surgery after I sold the business. But after the dust settled from that, I was like, I want to press play on this. And so, it's also leading me into a whole new area of learning. And I love learning. And that I'm now going out and I'm in the process now of looking for sponsors to help take the book into where all the proceeds from the book will go to the charity Look Good, Feel Better. But to give some sort of safety net so that it's not just me putting all my money into it, I'm going to be looking for sponsors that can help with the production costs and the design costs and distribution costs. And we're putting in place a healing spaces program, so everybody who sponsors will then get a certain number of books allocated to them that will go into breast cancer clinics, plastic surgeons, GP clinics, affiliated businesses where breast cancer survivors go, so that with a little, his book has been donated by whoever the sponsor is. So, but now I have to learn how to go and ask for sponsorship. So it's a whole new world for me. Yes.
Networking and relationships would be the thing that I would share with you there. So probably, I suspect you may find that the people that would be the introducers or the sponsors themselves will probably already exist in your network. Not knowing you as I do, I know that you've got a very big network. And so I think you'd be surprised who might be interested in kind of having that dialogue and that conversation. It's probably not dissimilar to raising money. This has become a bit of a trope in fundraising circles, but it does have a bit of a truism. Experienced investors like me see it coming, but people say, I want to talk to you about getting some advice on my new venture. I know they want to raise money. And so the classic thing was that if you talk to someone for advice, then you get money. If you talk to someone for money, you get advice.
Right.
Maybe you take the advice angle on,
Interesting.
advice on
Thank
kind of what I'm
you.
endeavoring to get up to here with this thing and, kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah.
It can be an easier ask and a more direct route to people as
Okay,
well.
thank you. Thank you.
So
I mean, I always fully owned the business. I never had investments. I never actually went through that process. So it's a whole new thing for me, going and asking people for money. It's actually, I'm having to work through some of my own mental blocks around that.
Yeah, just get out there and do it would be the thing that I'd advocate, and start on that inner circle as well. And so just as kind of practicing a pitch, with the inner circle, looking for advice on how to get this thing going. There's people that have trodden the path before you that I wish that I could share with you the copy to the formula for selling 100,000 books, but I haven't yet.
Yeah.
So when I have, I will share that with you. We're on that journey right now.
Yeah.
Get a pitch going, something which is compelling and interesting for people, which kind of talks to the things that they would be, connect with their drivers, their values, that sort of thing would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I got the advice.
Okay. Here you go. You weren't even asking for it.
I love it. It's awesome. That's what we're great about as entrepreneurs.
Indeed, absolutely. So how do people find you?
How do people find me?
Yeah. So Dr. Cat Stone, LinkedIn.
There's Dr. Cat Stone. I'm actually a bit shocking at LinkedIn,
Okay.
let's be honest.
Well, if you're looking for sponsorship, how do people look you up?
I do check it like once every 6 months.
Okay.
I'm probably more of an Instagram girl these days.
And what's your handle on Instagram?
Dr. Cat Stone.
Dr. Cat Stone. Okay.
Yeah,
Dr. Cat Stone.
Yep. DRCATSTONE.
Excellent. Like and follow. And if you have any interest in getting involved in the sponsorship, then look Dr. Cat up directly.
That'd be amazing.
Parting question for you, Cat, is there's an alternate universe. There's another Cat Stone who hasn't gone down the path of being a medical professional doctor, maybe a surgeon, then going into injectables, but particularly entrepreneurship. She's got a very deeply satisfying career. What is that alternate career that this alternate universe Cat has?
So it's interesting. I have just gotten back into dancing, and I had the opportunity. I did Miss New Zealand an eon ago, and at the end of Miss New Zealand, I had the opportunity to be part of a dance group going around New Zealand, and I excitedly went back to my mum and was like, oh my God, I've been given this opportunity. She's like, that's amazing. That's so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. You can do it after you've finished medical school. And so it brings me so much joy. So if I had another something that I would do, maybe dancing. But I've loved my journey.
Yes.
Or with all its highs and lows and craziness, and I've really, really, I can say with hand on heart, and when I was looking at the possibility that I might die, there was a conversation I had with my mum that was, I've lived an incredible life. I have very few regrets. I have a few, but only a few. And I feel like I've made the most of what life I have. I don't want it to finish just yet. But if I do go, then I'm really pleased with this life. So
yeah. I had Viv Bryant-Tokerty on the show
I love
recently.
Viv.
Viv's great. And she had been a dancer. So
Yes.
she went from that into entrepreneurship, running a
Yes.
business.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have found my way back to entrepreneurship somehow, but,
Right, through
yeah.
the dancing,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Mm, mm. You remember the 80s when there was always dancing girls with things?
Yeah.
And so, like, Top of the Pops and, other television game shows and that sort of thing, there was always dancing girls. Bring back the dancing girls.
I'm all about it.
100%. A missed opportunity. That could be the next or the,
It
venture
it
from
very
here.
well could be. Who
We'll watch the
knows?
space. Kat, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you for your openness and vulnerability around the cancer piece, especially. I've no doubt that the message will resonate with a lot of people that didn't expect it to kind of touch them in a way that it, I hope and no doubt you hope that it will do. And I look forward to seeing where Dr. Kat Stone goes from here.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a delight to chat with you.
What a pleasure. Thanks so much for listening to the show. If you've gotten this far, I reckon you've probably enjoyed it. And there's more available for you in the form of my book, 2 Commas. It's available on my website, joshcomrie.com. I've done an Audible version, which is on amazon.com, and there's a Kindle one kicking around on either of those resources as well. I've had some wonderful, unsolicited feedback from early readers. They describe it as being punchy, clear, helpful, and actionable. What it's not is a guide on how to sell your company. You can go to ChatGPT for that. It's more insightful, experiential-based, and a bit of a blend of psychology, philosophy, and what it takes to build something meaningful, and what all that means afterwards. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you grab yourself a copy.